Greetings, car fanatics. After 3 years of ownership, it is time to say goodbye to the Kia Telluride. In this video, I'm going to be talking about our decision to trade up to a Mercedes GLE. I'm on the way to a Mercedes dealership in Oklahoma to trade in the Telluride for a 2022 Mercedes GLE. When the Telluride first came out in 2020, I was blown away with the looks. In 2021, I placed an order and waited nearly a year to get a 2022 Kia Telluride SX Prestige all-wheel drive. Initially, we couldn't have been happier with the vehicle, but a few months later, our enthusiasm began to fade. Upon the first oil change, I noticed there was oil on the underbody panel. I didn't think much of it, but then I noticed I was losing about a quart of oil every 1,000 miles. I took it to the dealership and they said everything was fine, but this past winter I started to notice oil pooling in our driveway. So after some diagnosis of my own, I was able to find the culprit. It was just a seal that needed to be replaced. I did it myself in under an hour for about $15, but again, the dealership was not able to find an issue when I took it in initially, so this was a little frustrating. Then over the first 2 years of ownership, I also received a lot of recall notices and technical service bulletins. It was difficult to find time to drop off the car because the closest dealership was over 30 minutes away and none of the dealerships ever had a loaner car available. Then within the first year, the Nightfall trim completely faded and made the car look old. Kia agreed to fix this under warranty, but I waited nearly a year for all the parts to arrive and they still didn't arrive. Then, about 1.5 years into our ownership, the car began to overheat randomly. I took it to the dealership and they said they couldn't find anything wrong with it. And then most recently, while we were on a trip to Houston, which is about 4 hours away from Dallas, the battery light began to flash. The next morning, I took the car to AutoZone to get tested. They said the battery was good, but the alternator might be bad. So I took the car to a Kia dealership, but on the way, we lost all electronics and power steering. Fortunately, we were just a quarter mile from the dealership and not on the highway. We were able to limp the car in, but this could have been a very dangerous situation had we still been on the highway. We had our young kids in the car, and it was really hard to steer the car without power steering. So I dropped off the car. Kia didn't have any loaners available, of course. So I called an Uber, had to transfer all of our luggage and our young sleeping kids and their car seats, and then go find a rental car. I told Kia that AutoZone said it was likely the alternator. However, they insisted it was something else. After a week, Kia eventually said it was the alternator. Had they diagnosed this correctly, though, I would have had my vehicle back in 1 to 2 days. They did fix it under warranty. However, they charged me $540 to replace the battery, claiming it was out of warranty. But actually, my battery died because the voltage dropped too low for the battery to be saved, and this was all due to a bad alternator. I went a week without the car. I had to arrange transportation from Houston back to Dallas, and then I had to get transportation back to Houston to pick up the car and drive it all the way back to Dallas. This was a terrible experience, and my wife said she had enough with the issues and the poor service we received from Kia dealerships and insisted we trade the vehicle in. She previously had a Mercedes C250 and it didn't have any major issues, and we always had good experiences with Mercedes service departments. So we quickly set our sights on getting a used Mercedes GLE. A used Mercedes GLE was only a few grand more than what we could trade the Telluride in for, or so we thought. It was a little smaller, but it could be optioned with the third row, and it had bench second row seating, which was better for us because we needed to put 2 rear-facing car seats in. With the Kia and the captain's chairs, with 2 rear-facing car seats in the second row, you can't access the third row unless you remove a car seat. This is really inconvenient. But with a bench setup, you can put 2 rear-facing car seats right next to each other and still have a seat to fold down if you needed to access the third row. With the bench seating, you could also fit an adult in the second row instead of having to pull out the car seat with the Kia and then have to put someone in the third row. So after a week and a half of searching and test driving GLEs, we narrowed down our choices. First, there was a 2021 GLE 350 for $38,000. It had the third row, and we almost pulled the trigger on this, but after looking at a few other GLEs, we really wanted the AMG exterior package. It just really elevated the look of the vehicle. We found a GLE 350 with the AMG package and a third row seating at CarMax, and it was $39,000, but after test driving it, I really hated the base 4-cylinder engine. It just felt really peaky, like an on-off switch. It either had no torque or it had too much torque, and I really set my sights on getting a GLE 450 instead. but this would bump up the price, and finding a GLE 450 with the AMG package and the third row was a lot more difficult. I had to look nationwide, and there were two that caught my eye, but unfortunately they sold very quickly. So knowing this, I knew I might have to just up my budget a little bit. Fortunately, the perfect car popped up in Oklahoma. It had the AMG package, it had the third row, it had the driver assistance and all these options. It was perfect, but the price tag was $49,000, way more than we were budgeting. But after knowing how hard it would be to find this spec, and considering that the vehicle was certified pre-owned, we pulled the trigger. So that's why I'm driving here to Oklahoma to pick up the Mercedes GLE 450. I'll be making a video soon doing a comparison of the Telluride versus the GLE, but in the meantime, I wanted to give you all an update and walk you through our thought process for trading in the Kia Telluride for the GLE. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Leave any questions or comments below, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you're notified each time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching.